Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. That guy right there, that's Tim, and he's primed. He's ready because this one is going to be one you are going to send to every one of your friends. Get ready. Because how's this for a headline? Hey, Tim, gun cases in Chicago turned down by feds at higher rate than in most cities. Whoops. oh, man. Boy. It's going to be a thing. While Tim's getting revved up, though, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on because this is the 2A channel that breaks down the goings-on, reassembles it with some analysis and commentary, puts a delicious layer of icing, which is the humor and sarcasm, and sends it back out for consumption. And with that, Tim, are you revved? Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm so ready. I can't believe it, Tim. Chicago. They turned down more gun crimes than any other city. What? I don't.
So what they're saying here is that federal prosecutors in the Chicagoland area, they're turning down charging people with the very crimes that they convinced people, some people anyway, would save the world. Just reasonable restrictions. If we just pass these reasonable laws. Oh, by the way, we're not going to enforce these laws, and we're just going to turn criminals loose back on the street. We're going to let them go, rape, pillage, murder, loot, whatever else they want to do, because you know what? they're just underprivileged people acting out. I mean, whoever said that democracy had to be peaceful? I mean, we need a little chaos.
Boom. Nailed it. Chris Cuomo, CNN quote. Nice job.
Thank you.
Just listen to this. This is 14. God, setting this up. It's like I'm living in a world where I have to double check everything's real because it's just too insane.
Bizarro.
And by the way, this is verified. This is from a newspaper in Chicago, Chicago Sun-Times. Chicago is flooded with firearms, more than almost anywhere in the country. That's a whole different conversation. But federal prosecutors in the city are less likely to approve gun charges than their counterparts in most other cities. A massive new data release by the ATF shows that more ownership traces of crime guns recovered by law enforcement agencies were done in Chicago than anywhere else except Houston from 2017 to 2021. Oh my God, I could do a video only on that little tiny paragraph.
And Chicago blames Indiana.
God.
Because
it's your fault.
Indiana would have a much higher crime rate if we weren't sending all of our guns to Chicago. So that's why our crime rate's lower than theirs, is because we send all of our guns over there, and it's Indiana's fault.
You're exporting your crime.
Yes, I mean,
it's genius.
Chicago's brought lawsuits against gun dealers in Indiana. This is an ongoing thing. It's been going on for 20 some years. They constantly blame Indiana for their problems. It couldn't be their own problems, their own policies, their lack of enforcement, their lack of anything. It couldn't be any of that. It's Indiana's fault.
Nope.
Yeah. Always shifting the blame. This is what the left does. The problem's over there. Ain't here. It's over there.
They're like that cartoon. I don't remember which cartoon it was.
Which way did he
went that away.
Yeah. Which way did he go?
They went that away. It's a pretty good analysis. But Tim, my shock and dismay should be very, very obvious. I can't believe that Chicago would be flooded with firearms more than most places. And then after being told that firearms were the problem, that the feds wouldn't do anything. It's so weird.
We think guns should be banned, but we're not going to take the guns away from the criminals that are out there criminaling because we don't know why, but ban guns.
It's weird.
Yeah. Shut down gun dealing in Indiana. It's Indiana's fault. It's everybody's fault but ours.
Exactly right. Nailed it. Well, this is number 15. Let's really drive this point home of what's going on. Yet, federal prosecutors in Chicago were ranked in the bottom 8 of the country's 94 federal court districts in the percentage of gun cases they approve, according to the report ordered by U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, who is in Chicago on Wednesday to announce $78 million in anti-violence grants. Dude, this guy, you remember what we covered on this? This was where he said we're doubling down on our unprecedented progress for the Biden administration.
Right. We're doubling down on this epic failure in Chicago. We're just going to throw some more money at them so they can prosecute even fewer crimes. I mean, where's the $78 million going? Right into the pockets of corrupt politicians. And if you know anything about Chicago and its political history, they have more governors in prison right now than any other state in the union. They have
goals.
I mean, they're corrupt from top to bottom. But we just go give them $78 million and let them trample the rights of their citizenry and not prosecute criminals. And let's just give them more money. Let's see how much more chaos we can fund.
They need more.
Yeah.
But I would like to take a moment to taste the delicious icing. The fact that Merrick Garland, in an effort to propagate a propaganda narrative for the Biden administration, is in Chicago saying how much progress they've had in reducing violent crime and that they're going to double down with an additional $78 million based off of the report that they're releasing and announcing on the exact same day, which cites Chicago area federal prosecutors underneath Merrick Garland have the lowest rate of federal prosecutorial charges.
You can't make this up.
God. You just can't, dude. That sentence should be fictitious.
But just know, people, that if you just give up your guns, we can fix the problem.
It
has nothing to do with our complete lunacy and lack of leadership and just complete stupidity talking out of both sides of our mouths. No, it's your fault, gun-owning America. Yeah. Surrender your rights. That's the only way we can move forward as a country.
Exactly. Well, let me throw some gun totals at you here for contrast.
The sarcasm meter needs to be pegged out there, Doc.
Oh my God, sarcasm should just be like perma left or perma sarcasmed. Let me just throw some numbers at you and the beautiful people, because we love numbers here on Second Legacy. So the Chicago Police Department regularly touts thousands of guns that it gets during its arrests, searches, buybacks, and other means, which is ironic. It's a gun control city. The ATF has given the number of 37,657 guns were recovered over the 5-year period. Well, if you skip right down to the next one, only Houston had more gun traces than Chicago in the same period with 38,000. Los Angeles, for contrast, 19,000, and New York, 12,000. Both of those places are gun control states. What's going on, Chicago?
Yeah.
This is awkward.
Well, look at that. 2 of the states I've spent a lot of time in, Kansas and Indiana, are down there at the bottom too. Oh, well.
Man.
Those federal prosecutors.
So anyway,
saving you from yourselves.
Mean prosecutors. They are. They're helping.
We're going to pass this law. It's going to save the world. We're just not going to enforce this law.
Yeah. Hey, so you haven't sneak a peek yet. Can you guess at what percentage of gun cases the feds accept out of the Illinois area? Just
out of what area?
Out of the Illinois area in Chicago. What we're talking about?
10%. No, 15%.
Oh,
15%.
No.
Should I stick with the 10%?
You are so. Goodness great. No, you are so. Your lack of faith is disturbing, is what it is. Yeah. This is number 18. Here's the number. Still in the Northern District of Illinois, which includes Cook County and other collar counties, prosecutors approved only 45% of the gun cases presented to them. The ATF report said there are many reasons for a denial, from an expired statute of limitations to insufficient evidence. Okay, now we're getting to the crux of the problem. You waited 5 years to charge someone for murdering someone, and you didn't collect the evidence because it wasn't there, and you're going to tell me the guns are the problem.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much violence in Chicago that they have to prioritize police. And this comes from people that I know that have worked there. And this is several years ago, we've had these conversations, but they are so inundated with violent crime that they have to pick and choose which ones they actually use resources on to try to solve the murder, gather evidence, and bring people to prosecution. So I would imagine a lot of this has to do with the fact that law enforcement just isn't investigating these cases because of resources,
because
whatever.
Too many.
So maybe the $78 million that Merrick Garland wants to funnel into Chicago is suddenly going to make them investigate the cases. They're going to double the police force because they're down to 45% to get to 100. We're going to have to double the police force. Is that what they're going to do?
No, because that $78 million is not going to police, Tim. That, as we covered in a prior episode, that $78 million is going to gun violence prevention third parties. For equitable outcomes.
$78 million, playing basketball after school type activities.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. You nailed it. That's a lot of basketball courts, at least 2.
Boy, that should button things up and get the crime rate down.
Should really do it.
Investigating and prosecuting actual criminals that commit murder. It's still up in the air whether or not that'll stop a criminal.
That's so passe.
But if we do some extracurricular activities after school, that should bring the crime rate down because that's been working so well over the last 30 years. They've been talking about that.
I heard paper mache is a great option. So Tim, remember that 45%? Well, let's do some more contrast here.
Okay.
That's 45% in Chicago. Well, in San Francisco, the rate was 71%. 71% in Eastern New York. And then in Long Island, it was 63%. So Chicago is doing so poorly that they're being outpaced by California cities and New York cities by about 20 to 25%. I wonder what could be the difference there, since they're all 3 gun control states. It's almost like Chicago's a cluster.
I don't know, but I just know the answer is more gun control. The 20,000 laws we have on the books federally and at state levels, it just aren't enough. If we had 20,001, we could restore sanity.
We're always one short. Well, here's
we're just one law away from solving the world's problems.
Exactly. You know how I love when law enforcement officers speak on the condition of anonymity.
Yeah.
Anonymity, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. This is number 18. 2 law enforcement officials on the condition of anonymity said they're frustrated with the low approval rate by federal prosecutors for gun cases here. They understand why the prosecutors are careful to bring cases they think they can win, but one official said sometimes you just got to swing the bat. Do you know what that translates to? That translates to criminals aren't getting pinched, you aren't doing it quick enough, you don't have enough evidence captured, and these criminals are going back on the street. So, Tim, let me paint a picture for you. You got criminals happening and criminality happening on the street, and of the people who get arrested, 45% of them are getting charged federally under federal gun crimes, which means 55% of the criminals who are actually arrested are back out because the cases are dropped. And then those who actually get convicted are being put back in the population by woke DAs under a different Department of Justice mentality. You wonder why crime and violent crime is spiking?
Yeah.
You have a low capture rate, you have a low retention rate, and you have an even worse release rate. Good Lord.
And this goes to something that is a problem within the prosecutorial realm, if I can spit that word out right, in general, right? So many times you have prosecutors at the state level and stuff like that who are actually elected officials. And so they won't take a case unless they think they can win it. They're 100% sure it is high, whatever their percentage is, they think that they can win it, because the more losses they have, the less likely they are to get reelected, because they'll be beaten over the head with those losses by the media locally. So now on the federal side, who knows what their motives are, but it just seems that prosecutors just always want those wins. And if they're not really sure they're going to get that win, they're going to focus on this case where they think they can, and they're going to ignore this case over here. Hence why they're saying sometimes you just got to swing the bat. You know, if you got somebody that you've jammed up for murder, you got, about all the evidence you need, maybe you take them to court anyway, or you just want to focus on those wins because it looks good.
Well, speaking of looking good, this is the opposite of that to wrap this episode. Listen to what the ATF said. Bro, this is so great. This is number 20. Asked about the U.S. Attorney's Office, a 45% gun case approval rate in Chicago, ATF said in a statement, quote, as the report emphasizes, state prosecution offices often have a broader range of potential firearm-related charges that could be readily filed to disrupt criminal activity associated with trafficking. This was particularly true in Illinois during the period covered by the report, as it had statutes specifically addressing firearm trafficking that predate the recently enacted federal statute. Heisman, it's not us. State, you go do it. You go do it, state.
So this is, and I thought this might have been the case, because I don't read these before the show. There you have, and I was wondering about this because many times, like on NFA type things, right? People think that they're going to get caught by the ATF if they're doing something illegal with a machine gun or whatever. Actually, most of those prosecutions come at the state level, right? Most states have laws on the books that mirror federal laws, and they just take care of it at the state level, and it never involves ATF, and the feds never get involved. And you wind up in state prison, not federal prison, for your federal gun crimes that also happen to be state gun crimes, similar laws. So I was wondering about this. Like, are they just kicking these up to the federal level because it's just lazy prosecutors at the local level, the people that are actually elected? Are they just kicking them up the federal ladder? Like, I don't want to deal with this. We'll just kick it up the federal because I don't have the evidence I want because I got an election to win. I'm going to kick. No, that's not what they're doing.
It's much deeper, dude. It is so much deeper. Follow me on this and tell me if I'm on this, because I'm glad you asked that question, because you have to ask the why here. So on the state's perspective, if they kick it to the federal, that means you have federal funds. You just save the state's office funds. That means you have federal time. It's on the federal docket. That means you clear up your docket. You up your clearance rate, right? All of these things are related to making themselves look better, not in the outcome and interest of justice. But now think about this from another perspective. What do the gun controllers always tell us is the way to solve all the problems we have with violence in this country? A federal solution to gun control, right?
Yeah.
So the state's attorney's office are kicking it to federal because they believe in a federal solution. They're not because they want to just go, oh, we can't do it on state. It's because the left ethos around gun control is let the national government, the federal government, do this. The federal government goes, no, we can't. And they kick it right back to the state. Do you think it's a coincidence that all the things we've covered around the shift from federal to state level is just happenstance?
Yeah.
The gun controllers are shifting to state level. It's all about an ethos of the left. At least that's what I think. Could be from my position.
Yeah. Well, I think there's elements of of a lot of stuff going on here, because if the local prosecutors aren't taking the cases and they're referring them to federal prosecution, given how low the number is for the terms of prosecutions that the feds take on, it just tells me the case is being kicked up to them from the state, or weak cases that the state didn't do its diligence, didn't do a proper investigation. Again, all resource related or some other political reason for it. But whatever, these cases are getting handed off to the feds are like, yeah, this is bunk. You didn't do your job. I'm not, there's not enough here for us to act.
Right.
So I think I'm more inclined to believe government and elected officials are lazy. And I'm more inclined to think that they have their own self-interest at heart, and therefore they're going to pass the buck to somebody else. I've been talking about that the last few videos. It's always somebody else's fault.
It's true.
And so I think that's an element of it too, right? I think there's a bunch of different moving pieces here, but it all culminates in they're just not prosecuting the crimes that they tell us are going to save the world.
Blaming gun owners.
And then blaming gun owners.
And blaming gun owners.
Yeah. So you just got to love it. But this is the mindset of the left, right? And we talk about the video we just did. We're talking about DC screwing up, in the mind of the ATF because they forced the gun dealer responsibility onto the MPD there in DC. And then we're talking about this. There's kind of a theme here that government is ineffective and it's broken, and all they want to do is blame you for their own shortcomings. And they're going to take your rights to fix their own shortcomings. And it's just so aggravating.
Checks out.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks for watching Second Legacy. We'll talk to you guys soon.